Good morning and happy Thursday. This video is fairly obvious. I would assume you've seen the title. It's my 10 favourite books of all time. Now, I'm going to state the obvious, reading subjective. Some of these books might have dog shit Goodreads scores. I don't know because I haven't checked them because I don't care. These books made me either happy or they related to me in like one way or another, or they made me feel all the feels that I wanted to feel at the feeling time. Don't yuck my yum. I love these and I want to share that with you. I'm not going to drag this video out any longer. In at number 10 is the first and only non-fiction book in this list. It's called The Long Walk by Slavomir Rowicz. I've no idea if I've butchered that name. I've read a fair bit of non-fiction around World War II. It's a topic I'm quite interested in, but this was the first and only book I've read that is centred around Russia. And basically, this Polish cavalry officer gets detained by Russia, sentenced and charged to hard labour in the gulags in Siberia. Him and a bunch of like 4 or 5 other people manage to escape. It's a story of survival. It's a fantastic representation, I think, of how strong we are as humans and how much we are actually capable of when faced with death. Because that's basically what this dude's faced with. It's kind of like die or escape. And he manages to escape going through like Tibetan stuff in like horrific, horrible conditions. It's marvellous. Not only is it marvellous, but one of my followers messaged me and said that her granddad served in World War II, and he'd said this was one of the most accurate representations of what it was like in World War II, which I think if someone that served in World War II says that this is one of the most accurate representations, then you probably should read it. So yeah, read that if you're into that sort of stuff. In at number 9, Joe Abercrombie, The Blade Itself. Now I will say, I do feel like I've done a quite good job in putting these in order of which they mean to me. But a couple of them maybe could be shuffled around a little bit. But anyway, I blagged it. It took me like half an hour to put them all together. I fucking loved them all. Anyway, Joe Abercrombie. I underscored this when I initially read it. I was in a tough spot at the time. My mental health wasn't great. I still read it. I should have waited till I was in a better place to read this book. Upon, thought, this is a 5-star read. I think I rated it 4.25 star when I first read it. But it's because I went into it completely blind, expecting maybe this mad adventure with loads of magic and loads of quests and the stuff that I love from fantasy books. This isn't that. This is grimdark fantasy. This is a brilliant character study, I would say, of different people and how people can grow and how trauma can affect you and disability. That, for me, my biggest takeaway from this was the story of Glocta, who is a crippled torturer who basically was captured in war and tortured, and it's done things to his body which means he's now a cripple, as described in the book. And the way that is in a dialogue, like fears stares, and the way that it makes you think about what it would be like to be disabled, like no book's ever done that to me. I can't wait to get further into First Law Trilogy. A lot of people have told me that this is the worst book in the First Law Trilogy, so if this is the worst book, I'm definitely down to read more. The only reason I've not gone further into it is because I'm quite obsessive. And if I get into book 2, I'm probably going to want to read 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I know, that's, yeah. Anyway, really, really good. You should read it. What's up next? At number, what are we on? 8? Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne. That's a dragon called Draka, I think his name was. This was my first ever proper Norse-inspired fantasy book, and it was bloody marvellous. I don't see this getting talked about that much. I am told that The Faithful and the Fallen, which is another series, it's got 4 books in it by the same author, is better, but I haven't read it, so it can't be on my list. This was just marvellous, truly marvellous. There's loss and stuff in it. Actually, within the first quarter of this book, there's a lot of loss in it, and you're like, who does that? Who? No, you just don't start like that. You build up the anticipation, make me love characters, and then maybe send them to Jesus. But you don't just send people to Jesus before I even know them. Anyway, it's a really good story, and there are different arcs with different characters. So my favourite arc, I would say, is probably Orca's revenge arc. It's definitely a revenge arc, and she is badass. I also love the fact that this is a male author who writes strong female characters, because a lot of authors don't do well with strong female characters. There's two badass female characters in this story, and they're both just fabulous. Anyway, if you're into fantasy, if you're into Norse-inspired fantasy especially, you should read this. But even if you're not, you should read it anyway, because I've said it's good, and if it's on my top 10, then it's good. Really, really good. John Gwynne is underrated. Coming in at number 7, our first crime book. This was a tough one, because I was torn between whether I put Chris Carter or M.W. Craven on this list, because they're kind of like level. I actually loved every single Chris Carter book I've ever read, and I also loved every single M.W. Craven book I've ever read, but I couldn't just do a top 10 with their books in. So I picked The Caller by Chris Carter, and it was between The Caller and An Evil Mind by Chris Carter as well. The reason that this man gets the pip is just because his books are a little bit faster paced, short chapters, more bingeable, and more gory. I'm a bit of a psychopath when it comes to crime books, and I like serial killers to like be proper gross and minging. And Chris Carter writes gross and minging serial killers better than anyone. So Chris Carter came in at number 7, I think, did he? Yeah, I don't edit these videos, so we'll figure it out between us. Really, really fabulous. If you're interested in crime books, police procedurals, and you've not read Chris Carter, you absolutely should. And if you have read Chris Carter, you're probably going to tell me in comments how fabulous he is, because he truly is magnificent. In at number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It was 7. This is 6. This is another underrated book. And it's not underrated on Goodreads. I think Goodreads rates this book like 4.5, 4.6. It's like really, really high. But I don't see it spoken about much on BookTube. And I think the reason is because it's not really... It is fantasy. There's like magical elements to this book, but it is more of a coming-of-age, found family, heist story that I don't think is going to be for everyone. But it's definitely for me. It's funny, the characters are funny, the dialogue is absolutely top tier, it is unbelievable, 10 out of 10. And it's just a lovely story about a group of kids who, like, don't really belong anywhere. They are absolutely taken advantage of because they don't belong anywhere. Their masters will call them, just use them to gain wealth. And these kids just find love in community and prove that family doesn't always need to be blood. And I think it's absolutely beautiful and brilliant and fantastic, and I think more people should read it. It is The Lies of Lammore by Scott Lynch. I'm aware that I didn't say the name, and some people are probably thinking, move your fat fingers out of the way, I can't even see what book it is. You can see that this book's a bit hammered. I have actually got a copy that I normally show on video of this book that's immaculate. That's how good the book was, that I bought another copy that I plan on keeping forever, and this is my copy that, like, it's such a fantastic story. So underrated. Read it. Marvellous. In at number 5, this book here. This is The Goblet of Fire by J.K. Rowling. Oh, no, he's mentioned the woman, J.K. Rowling. Look, before I tell you why this book is absolutely fabulous, this is my views on J.K. Rowling. She can be a twat. She absolutely can be an absolute imbecile. I don't feel like she needs to be coming online and saying the hurtful things that she says. But we're not going to agree with everyone in life. You know, people are going to disagree with us. And I think it's a bit of a stinking privilege for people to assume that everyone's going to believe the same beliefs that they have. But you need to stop painting people with the brush of, if that person reads or promotes Harry Potter, they are a stinking horrible person, because I don't believe that I'm a horrible person. I give to charity, I look after people, I want everyone to be happy, I want everyone to have equal rights. But I also don't think that everyone's going to feel the same way that I feel. You know, not everyone's going to want the things that I want, and that's okay. That's the beautiful things about humans, is that we're all different. Anyway, this book is just absolutely marvellous. I'd say out of the entire series, this was my favourite from a nostalgic purpose. I just remember, like, night times being young in bed with my original copies of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, and the first time they used the port key, the first time they went to the Quidditch World Cup, when they went into the tent and Harry's just like sheer, like, shock and awe at the fact, and my shock and awe at the fact that the tent was tiny, but inside the tent was absolutely humongous. And I was just like, it just felt so real. It felt so real. I have this year managed to reread book 1, 2, and 3, and I need to reread this one. There's no special reason behind why I've got this edition. This is just a Slytherin edition that I found at a charity shop for £3.50, and I was like, that's really nice. My daughter feels like she's a Slytherin. She's actually not. She did the test and she came back as a Gryffindor, and she was like, no, I want to be a Slytherin, because she fancies Draco Malfoy. And I'm like, dude, Draco Malfoy's like 37 now. It's a bit creepy. And she's like, yeah, but I fancy young Draco. And I was like, yeah, but you don't even know you, and he's not real. Anyway, this series will just always hold a special place in my heart. I've got the Jim Kay illustrated versions up there. It's what made me love reading. It's what got me into reading. And maybe my love for this series and for what it did to my childhood clouds my judgment when it comes to the fact that I will openly come on and talk on my page about this. But I truly don't care. I honestly do not care. I know in my heart of hearts, and my wife knows and my kids know, that I'm a good human being. And I'm going to continue to read these books. I'm going to continue to talk about them. And it is what it is. Bloody love Harry Potter so much. And I don't feel ashamed to say it. Coming in at number 4, Project Hail Mary. This book was one of the books that took me by surprise the most in the last kind of 2 years, we'll say. I had never really proper read fantasy before. This is not fantasy, it's sci-fi. I meant sci-fi. This is what happens when you don't have a script for a video. And it was marvellous. I went into this book scared because I thought, I'm not clever enough to read sci-fi. I don't really understand it. I've got no interest in space and things like that. But someone just said, look, just read it. It's marvellous. So I went into it blind, not really knowing what to expect. And it just grabbed me from the start. Like the entire story, it starts off with this dude, I forgot what his name is, Ryland Grace. He wakes up on a spaceship and he's no idea why he's there. And while he's on this spaceship, en route through the story, it progresses, and it is him figuring out why he's there and you figuring out with him. And he's basically humanity's last hope to try and save an impending apocalypse. And en route, he may or may not come into contact with something or someone. And the friendship, the relationship, the ability to communicate, and the way that the author, like, it's such a clever way of communicating, and it's just fantastic. It's such a unique premise, and I think, like, without giving spoilers, I can't really say much more than that. It's just marvellous. Like, if you want a story about friendship and hope and someone finding a sense of belonging where maybe they didn't feel like they belonged anywhere before, this is the book. It is one of them sci-fi books that's going to hold your hand, but not in a kind of way that makes you feel like you're not independent. Like, the author makes sci-fi feel easy, but he doesn't just spoon feed it you. It's fantastic. I'm really excited to read The Martian, which is another book by his. This was 10 out of 10. 11 out of 10. Absolutely fantastic. This was unbelievable. This book was unbelievable. I don't know if I said that was called Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. If I didn't, I just have. So if you want to Google it, Project Hail Mary, Andy Weir. Abby Jimenez, Just for the Summer. This was fucking phenomenal. Just 15 out of 10. It was just a book that I went into. It was warm one day, and I was like, I'm just going to read a nice fluffy romance because it's warm. So why wouldn't I? Because that's when you read romance books, isn't it? When it's like warm weather. So I went into it, and from the first page, I could not put this book down. Obsessed. The character work is absolutely unbelievable. I've got a lot of, like, trauma that I've not dealt with, and a lot of it revolves around coming from a broken family, a dysfunctional family. I don't know my dad, he wasn't there. My mum didn't always make the best choices for us as children. She tried her best in the circumstances that she was given. She did a good job. But yeah, I think, obviously your upbringing and the people you're surrounded by molds you into the person that you are. And I think a lot of people have got baggage that they maybe have just tucked away and not dealt with. And this book helped me through so much baggage that I had never really dealt with, stuff that I didn't realise I did. And it's a story about two people who are just unlucky in love. It starts off with quite a light-hearted, fun story where they truly believe that they're cursed because everyone that they meet goes on to meet the love of their life, and it just doesn't work out for them. So they're like, look, let's date together. Let's just date. We'll do 4 or 5 dates. We'll split up, and then we'll both go on to find the love of our lives. Obviously, they start to fancy each other a little bit, and they're both like, oh, you're a bit sexy. And other one's like, oh, you're a bit sexy as well. And then you start to uncover the trauma and the real shit that these people are dealing with. It doesn't cloud over the fact that people are imperfect, and these characters are definitely imperfect, but they also bring out the best in each other. It's a fantastic story about how these people just learn to deal with shit that they have kind of just hid away for their entire lives. They've just put it away in a box and they've covered it, and they've thought, no, I'm okay, I'm fine, I don't need to work on anything. And they absolutely do, but they help each other work on things, and it's just two human beings who are just meant for each other, bring out the best in each other. And it just reminds me of my wife. Truly it did. Like, my wife brings out the absolute best in me. She sees the worst in me and she accepts it, and she helps me to try and be a better man. And it made me cry. You know, there's not many books that I've read that made me cry, and this one did. There were just a couple of lines in this book where I was just like, wow, like up in the middle at night crying, but like happy tears, because it's one of them books that it just, something clicks. And I think there'll be something in this book for everyone where something will click and you'll be like, shit, that's me, and I didn't know it were me. And it was just one of them books that just, yeah. There's 3 books in this world. This one, the other one's called Yours Truly, and then Part of Your World, and they all cover kind of different traumas. Abby Jimenez just does trauma and human kind of behaviour amazingly well. I don't know if she does it intentionally, but she's bloody brilliant at it and so underrated. What a book. You need to read it. Coming in at number 2, you might even be able to see it now because it's camera angle. I don't think it's a surprise what's going to be number 1, is it? Like, switch off now if you want. But number 2, The Sword of Kigan or Kigan by M.L. Wang. This book is just perfection. And I know it's hit or miss. My phone's going off. Who's ringing me here? Oh, I shouldn't really answer this in the middle of a video, should I? One sec. I'll answer it and then we'll just tell them we're busy a minute. Hello?
Oh, hi. This is Matthew from SSE, that's Scottish Southern Electric Power. Look, don't worry, I'm not selling anything on
No,
this call,
Matthew,
and I won't take
you're a
more than
robot.
30 seconds.
I probably shouldn't have answered that, but I didn't know if it was going to affect with like video and stuff. Anyway, we're back. So where was I? Sword of Kigan. 2 stories written by this author that I absolutely love. This one and Blood Over Brighthaven. Now, Blood Over Brighthaven was brilliant. Really, really good book. One of the most harrowing starts to a book I've ever read in my entire life. But this one for me just pipped it. This was like nothing I'd ever read before. And when it comes to fantasy books, usually with most fantasy books, you get like, do they call it the Sanderlanche? You know what Brandon Sanderson does, where it's like really slow build, world building, till the crescendo at the end, the last 10% is absolutely batshit crazy, and then you're like, whoa, let me read the next one. This one's not that. This is like the first half of this book is like where all the war happens, the building characters, the history of the world, the story, and then about halfway through, the war kicks off and shit goes down, and I cried, and you'll cry, and it's horrible, and just no one's safe. And then the back half of the story is like a character study of what it is to be a woman in a society where you're expected just to stay at home and cook and clean and look after kids. What it is for a woman who wants more than that. What it is to be a mum. And it is just eye-opening, brutal, and real. Like, it's just so real. The relationship between the husband and the wife, especially at the back end of this book, is just written marvellous. Truly marvellous. It's 15 out of 10 book. Honestly, absolutely fantastic. Some people have like messaged and said like, oh, I don't think it was that well written. Like, I couldn't tell you what good writing is. I can obviously pick out grammar mistakes and stuff like that, but I don't think there are any. And I don't read books for marvellous writing. I did that at school. I thought it was quite boring. I read books for the plot, for the vibes, for how it makes me feel. And this book made me feel all the feelings. I'm sure there are better writers out there in the world. And if you want to read them, you'll find them. But that's not why I read books. I read books for the story, to go to a place that isn't my place. You know, I'm trying to escape this. And if I'm not trying to escape this, I'm trying to learn new stuff, which is where I go to non-fiction. This book's just marvellous. Honestly, 15 out of 10, did I say? Coming in at number 1. Was it a surprise? Dungeon Crawler Call by Matt Dinniman. Just... oh my stars, for the love of Liza. This book is like everything. Just pure perfection. I will say, this is not the best book in the series, but it's the book that like has a special place in my heart, because I didn't even know lit RPG was a thing until I read this book. So lit RPG, for anyone that's new to my page, is literature role-playing games. So it's a book and like a game in a book. So it's progressive. You tend to start off and you'll have a character that's kind of like, oh shit, where am I? And then they realise they're in some sort of fantasy world, dragged away from Earth, and then it's progressive. So they might find out that there's like a leveling system and they're level 0 and everything around them's right hard, and they've got to kind of progress to get stronger, to maybe get more charisma, to be able to speak to people and manipulate people to do things that they want. They might work on strength to be able to punch things in face and knock its head off and shit like that. They might find some new trousers that give them more charisma. You know what I'm getting at? It's like a video game in a book, but it's just so much more than that. This book, I think, is an amazing gateway to fantasy, to lit RPG books, to reading. I genuinely think there'd be a lot of people that probably don't read books because they feel like there's maybe nothing that they'd be interested in, that would read this and be like, when did this become a thing? Because a lot of people don't even know that lit RPG is a thing, and it is just a thing that I think more people need to try, because I think a lot of people would be put off of this, thinking that it's like, oh, I'm not interested in video games. That's not me. I recommended this book to so many people who don't even play video games, and they're like, dude, this is just phenomenal, because the character work in it, like Princess Donut, is a talking cat, and she's one of the most sassiest things you've ever met in your life. If someone was to say to you, like, you know, if a cat was human, what do you think it'd be like? Princess Donut. That's exactly what a cat would be like if it could talk. And as the story starts to progress, it just covers a lot more darker themes of like loss and betrayal and survival. Like, it's just marvellous. Truly, truly marvellous. I think the storytelling and everything literally gets better as the series goes on, more and more and more. You can see Matt Dinniman, the author of this book, you can see how he was learning his craft as he was doing this series. I think I'm on like book 5 up to now. I've not finished it all yet because I want to take my time with it, because it's not a completed series yet. But it truly is just absolutely magnificent. And I think every single person could pick this series up and have fun with it. And if you have fun with book 1, I think it'll become more than fun in book 2, 3, 4. You'll start to love these characters. You'll start to meet new characters like Katya, and you're going to be like, oh, I just love them all. I want to go into these dungeons and help these survive just to try and get through it. But then you're going to meet oppressive regimes who are basically taking advantage of all these people, and you can definitely link the things that are happening in this world to real world events as well. So if you want to take more from the book than just a dude in a pair of boxer shorts and some Crocs with a talking cat going through a dungeon trying to survive and get back to Earth, you can. There is more to it. There are more messages if you want to find them. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. These are my favourite 10 books that I've ever read. You're probably going to tell me about books that I've said before that I loved even more, and I'll be thinking, shit. But I've not got all my books on my shelves. So I literally just looked at my shelves and I was like, yeah, I feel like they are my favourite 10 books ever. If you've watched to this point, I love you the most. I'll see you in a bit.